What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pleeka. I'm Jerome.
And I'm Nick.
And today we're talking about True Detective Season 3, Episode 6, Hunters in the Dark. I always want to say Detectives in the Dark, and it fucks me up every time.
Hunters in the Dark.
So, in the 80s, we get all the detectives and, people that you thought the district attorney from the 90s and all that you said he was guilty.
Mm-hmm.
They're all in a room with Wayne, and they're blaming the whole thing on Woodard.
Yeah, they basically said he killed the kids.
And how many people did they say they were going to blame it on killed? Because I know they got it wrong, and then Wayne corrected them.
They said 10, and then he said, well, it's 12 if you're going to blame the kids on him.
Yeah, and he's like, get your story right, and walked out of the room. I like that he was like, all right, go ahead. Like, you guys are fucking idiots.
Yeah, they really want to wrap it up quick.
Yeah. To me, I got the impression, because last week you were like, oh, it's them. And I was like, you might be on to something.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they were just kind of like in a Making a Murderer Stephen Avery kind of way. They rushed the case, and he even says at one point the town's being blamed, and they're being they have a bad image.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they rushed it.
You think it's incompetence?
Yeah, I don't think it was
It could be.
I mean, they could be involved still, but I got the feeling that they were just like, let's just this guy did it. Let's just get it over with.
When it first came about, and you go, oh, it's kind of like Stephen Avery, and I was like, oh, it is, because not only they're telling him they burned the girl, and she's not even dead,
Yeah, they found a burnt dress.
Yeah, they found
there, and the backpack. That
of course, the
brand
backpacks. Obviously, it looks like they just pulled it out of Walmart.
Yeah.
So the Avery thing kind of makes sense to me. And I was like, oh yeah. But I still think that they're involved, because then in the 90s, when it's they think maybe it's the dad at first.
Mm-hmm.
The same guy.
Well, I was gonna say that guy was a little fishy there, but it could also be again him just being like, oh fuck, okay, maybe he did it, him being the same way.
It could be,
because he could be over the kids, it's whatever it was him,
It could be. I just don't trust the fucker.
I could see that he doesn't seem very trustworthy.
I haven't trusted him since he was the starting quarterback for Washington in the replacements.
Come on, Martell. I didn't park in your space.
No. But unfortunately, you did park in Lamont's space. He's not nearly as lenient as I am.
On three, fellas. 1, 2, 3.
Maybe I'm holding a grudge. I don't know.
Might be holding a little bit of a grudge.
They flipped over Cannery's truck and everything, and he was the quarterback. So.
But so in the 90s, Wayne and Roland are driving, and they get a little call that someone wants them to call them back on the radio and all that. Show up at a diner,
and
it's Dan O'Brien, on meth. He's like, yeah, I'll give you all the information you need. It's $7,000, and
he was creepy. Wasn't
and
he?
he's saying there's people out there that are trying to make sure you don't get answers, and he's like, yeah, I got the whole fucking story. I've seen the finale of the show. And
yeah.
You guys just give me some.
I've seen the next
give me some
it's
money.
Awesome, but do you think he just knows because Lucy told him?
I figured that. It was weird. He also was like, yeah, me and Lucy shared a couple things. He kind of implied that he's banging her, which is weird, and
yeah.
The whole you wouldn't want to believe a character like that, but the way he's describing the stuff, you're like, oh, he probably does know.
He's describing the conspiracy that everybody wants.
Yeah.
And so you're hoping he's right.
Well, and then also going off the end of the episode too. So later on in the timeline in the 90s, the dad, I forget his name. Tom. He's getting on a drone and he hears those cops talking about a bunch of information where Dan O'Brien is and all that. So then he goes to where Dan used to get meth and fucking knocks him into a room, and I thought he was gonna kill him, and I thought maybe he was gonna call Roland and that they were gonna hide the body in a quarry or something.
That's what I thought was gonna happen too. That's what I was afraid was gonna happen.
Yeah. And then he brings it because he hears about the peephole and all that too, or when they were yelling at him when they were interrogating him.
Yeah.
Which that interrogation scene was pretty rough. He loses his mind in there.
Yeah, you know what it was rough, but he impressed me as an actor.
Yeah, me too. I was like, oh, he's good.
Yeah.
He made me feel like, oh, I can't wait for Narcos.
That's what I was
season
thinking.
2.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, because I haven't really been impressed with him, but he's just kind of been
he hasn't had his moment though.
Yeah, but he lost it in there, and then he loses it on that other piece of shit. So like,
yeah, and then he's like, give me a reason not to like murder you right now.
Yeah.
And we don't see it, but we can assume he's like, go to the White Castle.
Yeah. So
not White Castle.
It's funny that they've talked about Hoyt. They've been to his office. Now been in his house. We still haven't seen the fucker.
Yeah. Yeah. But so then eventually he goes there. He's walking through. You see his hand go through a room, and you're like, oh, fuck, there's that pink room we've heard like twice now. Turns on the light, and he says, Julie? Do you think he actually saw her, or do you think...
No.
Because, like...
I don't. Do you?
I was confused, like, why she would be there, because... Like, Dan O'Brien was like, yeah, you're looking for her, and they're looking for her, and all this stuff. And then that black guy with the one eye was like... oh, do you know where she is? And like stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of people like, hey, where is she? Do you know? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And if she's just in the room, what would be the point of all that? Unless, like, it was a trick to, but I don't know why they would do that. It
did seem like they were waiting for him to get there, though.
Yeah. That's the only thing I could think of is it'd be a trick to get him there is why they would maybe let her out. But why would they need him?
What's the guy's name? Harrison? Is that his name?
Which guy?
The cop or the former cop that's now in charge of the security for Hoyt.
I think so.
So he walks into him behind him as the episode ends.
Yeah, that was creepy. You see him like it's like all blurry. You see a guy walking up, and you're like, oh fuck, is that the security guy from Chicken Place?
So that's another reason why I think if there's this big giant conspiracy, obviously he's part of it because he got the job. He got a bigger job. And what I'm thinking is, like, they question on how much money he made and stuff. And he's, oh, you look at my checks? So, and, like, Hoyt's paying him. He has this big, giant chicken. He's on a safari in Africa.
Yeah.
If he can pay this guy and just make up a job for him, basically.
Yeah, that was weird, too, when he names his, like they're like, oh, what do you do here?
Yeah.
I don't know. You guard the chickens? And he names his whole entire thing.
Yeah. If he can do all that, I think he can, like, pay some politicians to like make stuff go away.
That's where I could see it involving the district attorney and stuff like that.
I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong, and the guy's just a dumbass.
Or even paying someone above them to be like, hey, just tell them to hurry up and get this done.
Yeah, because there was stuff like that in season 1 they were looking at stuff and they came in this big task force that was from the governor.
Yeah,
like it's just stuff like that you're like, wait a second. So I mean, maybe they're just like, hey, you gotta toe the company line or whatever. But it feels like to me, it feels like he's part of it.
Do you think this is where the dad's gonna die?
I do.
I figured that because like when she was mentioning it, I was like, oh fuck, he's dead. Like she mentioned that early on.
I think he kills him, and then but I don't know.
But then that guy has to go missing too.
Yeah,
and pretty quick after that he goes.
I'm wondering if he called Roland
before he was in there.
Before
we
he got there, yeah. And then what I'm thinking is he kills Tom, and then the cops kill him.
Oh, maybe
that's what I was thinking. I mean, that's my.
And do you think it's Roland or Wayne that kills him, and like that's why they're burning their clothes and stuff like that? I did go frame by frame of the coming of weeks and where you see them beating up that guy, and it looked like no one I've seen before. It looked like some old dude, but it like I told you this when we weren't filming that it could just be like a stunt double. Because it's so quick you can't tell. Yeah. But when you slow it down, it just looks like a dude, but it could be its stunt double.
Right.
But I was really trying to figure out who it was. I was like, oh, it's definitely not Dan. We thought it was him, but it didn't seem to be him. Do you still think that this is connected to season 1?
Yes.
Because we haven't gotten that
anything.
Scene. That every time I come back to her, I was like, are we going to see that scene? And we didn't.
So if in the last episode she's talking to Wayne and they reveal that this is all connected, who's not going to want to see season 4? Even if it's just someone else.
Do you think that's what it's leading towards? Or do you think it's just going to be like, they're going to end it and be like, yeah, it was the same ring as that? Because like the only like
I don't think there's going to be a full conclusion.
I don't think so either. The only thing I can see, and I give you full credit for this. You said this right when we were done watching the episode, is that maybe Wayne solved it in the 90s and then has now forgotten, and like his family was threatened by them if he didn't back off, and that's why like his wife is gone or she's dead, his daughter's not there, his son doesn't really live with him. Like they're all kind of like messed up. That's the only conclusion I can really see. Because, like, there's no fucking way him and Roland are solving it in 2015.
No,
he went pee and came back and forgot him.
When he did that, I felt like
Yeah, he walked in and he's like,
oh my God.
Roland, how are you? I was like, oh my fucking God, are you serious?
Yeah, I was like,
and then he's like, can you check if there's a car out there? And he's like, yeah, buddy.
So that was just something I was thinking of when I told you that. So, but then he's mentioned a few times that he did it for his family.
Mm-hmm.
And then all in the previous timelines, they talk about how miserable he is at home.
Yeah, that was rough too. When he's like, "No, I just want to keep working," and Roland's like, "If you don't want to go home, just say it." Like, just and it kind of like blew up on him a little bit.
Well, I mean, think of that. So then he doesn't want to be at home. So then he doesn't continue doing something that's gonna, and then he quits a job that leaves him at home.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound good.
That would make sense if it was like recruiter family or whatever, you know.
Yeah, totally.
I think this episode tonight might be one of my favorites of the season.
It's
because it was really good. There's a lot that happened in it.
Yeah, and all I want to do is watch the next two.
Totally, yeah. We didn't talk about Hayes' wife going to that orphanage area, talking to that girl who knew Julia. That's where we got the second mention of the pink room and all that. But then you mentioned this while we were watching it. Oh, watch out for another landscaper, because people who don't know, when we were watching season 1 of this show, he recognized the killer that was on a lawnmower and ruined the whole show for us watching it.
Well,
because you recognized him from another show.
Right. I didn't mean to ruin the show.
Yeah, but then you jokingly said that, and then we were watching the Ringers after show for this, and they mentioned that like they saw a landscaping business outside, and they looked it up, and it had the same last name as the boy that was interviewed in the previous episodes that like went trick or treating with them. So do you think that has any connection, or do you think they just did that like, oh, this is where the kid's at now?
That seems like too big of a coincidence.
Yeah.
I watched the interview again.
Oh, you did?
On accident. I was looking for something else and I found it and I was like, oh, I'll watch this.
Mm-hmm.
All he says is, yeah, they went trick-or-treating. We joined them. They were with two other men, or two ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't with them the whole time. They lived around the corner. Like nothing
like special.
He was upset. It did make me think of maybe he's the one that was playing Dungeons and Dragons with the boy and all that. The boy, and then like maybe he was just too scared to do something, and then maybe he grows up to be something different. But I mean that's a little crazy that it's the same person.
Yeah, because like, they were kind of talking like it's a whole conspiracy with him, but like he was a little boy when that happened. So like, what his father is doing it and like I mean maybe take over the family business. You got to go kidnap girls.
It's crazy that they would have him there though.
Yeah, that was very interesting. I feel like that was just like a little Easter egg. Like if you catch it, like the boy grew up and he's a landscaper. I mean, it could be something else, but I don't know.
Maybe there's let's throw the landscaper in again because we did this last time.
Could be trick some people.
I do think so. I'm forgetting people's names. But I think it's Harrison. But the guy that disappears. The disappears.
The security guard.
When I'm sure it's him that Wayne sees, which makes me think. And when he has those visions and there's something.
Oh, I didn't even
suit.
think about that. It could be him, and then that would make sense if they do show up there and murder him.
Yeah, and because he was in a suit. It's not the same suit though.
But it could. He could have various suits. Though.
Yeah. And then I was also wondering, you know how he's always looking for the car in 2015.
Yeah.
I was wondering if maybe because it seems like
because it could be them, and he's just because like he even sees himself in different situations like that. Yeah. It could be if they did threaten his family, he's just remembering that car being outside his house.
That's what I was thinking.
Making sure that he didn't continue investigating the case, and he just remembers for so long, looking out the window and seeing it.
But that's what I was thinking too. It's like if we
could see that.
Come to find out, it's Hoyt's car that was there, but it's not really there.
That just reminded me. I really liked some of the editing in this episode, like how they transferred between. We talked about this earlier on. They did a lot of stuff like this.
Oh yeah.
How they transferred between the timelines, like when they were first investigating and they were interrogating the dad, and he's looking at him. He's like, usually I know this, but I don't know if he did it or not. Mm-hmm. And he's looking. You can see the reflection of the old, like 2015 him in the window.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
Yeah,
I like when shows do stuff like that. It reminded me a little Westworldy, like when they had Ford on the reflection of Bernard and all that.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. But last thing, at least I can think of last thing that we haven't mentioned yet is we got a new black guy with a dead eye showed up at her book signing, and was threatening her and all that.
That was weird.
And then she remembered about the dolls. Do you think that's the real guy that they were talking about? And he is connected to the business and all that, or?
He didn't. Okay. I know he's got like a glossed over eye, and he was yelling at her, and confronting her, but he didn't seem like a bad guy.
Yeah, in that other after show we watched, they mentioned that maybe he was investigating it.
Yeah.
And he's mad at her for profiting off of it because he's been trying to investigate it. And, like, maybe this has been happening to black girls in his neighborhood, and no one's cared because, like, they didn't care about that. And now that's happening to white people. She's writing a book and all that.
Yeah, I mean...
It could be it, but I feel like the white eye thing is just like it's a red herring that like, oh, look for that guy. Kind of like the brown sedan and all that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's ultimately not going to mean much. I mean, maybe it could be. It could be the whole thing, but...
I mean, maybe he's been looking into it and they were like, hey, let's get this guy for a tail. We'll say this guy did it.
Yeah,
and then they go to the wrong guy's house. I thought Amelia was the least guilty in this episode.
Yeah, I did too. Because usually, like, we talked about how it would be cool if she did it, and, like, she sometimes, like, go away and pretend to be other people, shit like that. But, like, why would she go to, like, the orphanage and talk to that girl and all that stuff? Why would she write a second book? And I think this episode, for me at least, made me think she didn't do it.
Yeah,
or has no involvement whatsoever with it.
Like, I don't know that she's necessarily, like,
a good person.
A good person. I don't think she's a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't
think she did the crime.
I don't think she did the crime, and I think she just wants to know who did it, but not to solve it, to write the book.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, because she's gotten shit multiple times for that too, and and it seems to affect her, which I think that shows it's real.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention about tonight's episode?
No, it's just really good.
It was really good. I can't wait for the next 2 Sundays so we can like wrap this up, but like know what happened, and I just want to see the conclusion.
Yeah, and I hope it's like something that we haven't even thought of.
That'd be cool.
You know?
Yeah.
Like Matthew McConaughey's Hoyt. Just kidding.
That would be crazy. But all right, that's it for this True Detective video. Please like, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Comment down below your theories, and we'll see you guys next time for more True Detective. I always want to say detectives in the dark, and it fucks me up every time.